Hey everyone, welcome to the Obvious Podcast. I'm Sonny Macon.
I'm Peter Dyga, President and CEO at ABC Florida East Coast. You're listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own unless otherwise stated. And we hope that you love the show. We ask you to subscribe on all major podcast platforms or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on Instagram, X, and Truth Social. All the links you need are in the show notes. Or reach out to us anytime at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. And if you're enjoying the ride, help others find us by leaving a review wherever you listen.
Yes. Also, Happy Friday. Oh, check us out on TikTok.
We hear TikTok's blowing up for the Obvious Podcast.
Figuratively, not literally.
Yes, figuratively.
All right. So as our audience knows, we talk about all sorts of things on our show, politics and construction and ABC and
everything. Nothing's off the table, Sonny. Everything's game.
Yeah. So today I wanted to
as long as it's obvious.
As long as it's obvious. I just wanted to do something different.
Okay.
It has occurred to me that between you and I, we have over 50 years of management experience.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a long time to be in this field. And so what I wanted to do was talk about some of the things that you and I have found. I don't know if secrets is the right word, but let's just, for the sake of a term, let's just say lessons learned or secrets that we think make for like really great leaders, really great leadership. Things that you and I have learned, learned the hard way and learned easily. And so one of the things that I thought we'll make it interesting and just say, the 5 secrets to becoming a great leader.
All right.
Right.
The thing too about the human experience, from my perspective, is that this doesn't mean that you're never in need of continuing to learn or develop.
It doesn't mean you've arrived,
fine tune or whatever. So
and it certainly doesn't mean this is all there is and there's nothing more to it. But just what we took away from it, right? So one of the things that I've seen you do really well, right? Well, you and I can be in a meeting and you are flying at 30,000 feet, right? We're talking about LEA, we're talking about strategic issues. And that could be our 2:00 meeting, right? Vision, strategy, very, very high level. And then at 3:00, you and I are looking at a spreadsheet, looking at our student count in the plumbing program in Miami, right? Like super into the weeds.
Yeah.
And I think one of the secrets, to our success, and that I think that we've learned from, is our ability to go really high and then to get really in the weeds, but really to know the difference when each is appropriate.
I think that's great. I appreciate that. So, I don't know if that's just because
did that come naturally to you? Is that based on years of experience and just like how did that become part of your leadership style?
I don't know. Now you really put me on the spot. I'm not that introspective, I don't think. So, but probably part of it is just the nature of the work we find ourselves in.
Right.
Because and in particular this association and this chapter.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're very innovative. We've had some very forward-thinking and creative, leaders in the past, that have put us in a position where we can be, at 35,000 feet. And then there are many different ways we have to be at the lower level dealing with the minutia and the day-to-day stuff, as well. So I think maybe the nature of the work, the association work, and this association in particular, has made it so that we've had to develop those skills, I think.
Yeah.
So.
But it's, this is one of the most successful chapters in the country out of 67 in the ABC ecosystem. And so I think a challenge for a lot of leaders is a lot of leaders like to fly in one zone or the other, right? They're constantly in the weeds or they're constantly flying above. And that creates a weakness in whatever you're not into, right? And I think that causes organizational pains, because if you don't have a leader who's kind of able to fluctuate and travel between the two, I think that creates a lot of problems. So And I think, obviously, as you know, over managing people and over managing staff destroys morale, right? Destroys creativity, destroys effectiveness. But you also don't want to over contextualize the alignment, right? You want to have it be a little bit more organic, and you want to allow people to sort of, I don't want to say the phrase make mistakes, but just learn through their own or their own challenges.
Yeah. And that's not easy, by the way, as a leader. I don't know. At least I
know because you can step in and solve it like that.
Correct.
But then would your team member really learn
exactly
from that experience?
Exactly. So, so yeah, it's difficult, but it's necessary. So, I also think, and again, it's one of the things that I've always from the beginning, I think knew very early on. It's really what I was looking for as I left employment with the legislature many, many years or decades ago. That I wanted an organization that I shared their values and their mission.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that helps. That makes it it helps you to be able to stay focused on that. And you have to all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
Because there will be, and there have been challenges. I can think of an example today. Where we were having to,
Yeah, I know the challenges.
We're having to focus on, the mission of the organization, as opposed to, I don't know, the tendencies and inclinations to pursue something less than the mission. And many times, in my tenure as president, I've kind of pointed to that mission, which is, by the way, why we spend at least once a year, coming together for a couple of days as a group and making sure that not that we don't do it at other times, but where we specifically
we do it consistently.
Focus on making sure our leadership focus and reviews that mission because we take it very seriously. If this is the mission they give us, they better think about it, right? Because we're going to measure everything by those.
One thing, have you noticed that? So I'm gonna say it, and then I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna give you an example of the opposite, right?
Okay.
If our people, and this includes not just our staff, but also our board of directors and all of our stakeholders, if our people understand the mission, they will not police the methods.
I love
right?
That. Yeah.
But if you notice, whenever they, especially I've noticed this with the board, if they don't understand the mission, they try to police our methods.
Yes.
All the time.
Understand, focus on, whatever. It may not be that it's not that they don't understand it, but they're not focusing on it.
Exactly. That's a better way to say it. Yeah.
So, but yeah, absolutely. So that's a great point.
Yeah. So I think
that again.
If your people don't understand the mission, if your people understand the mission, they will not police the methods.
Yeah, that's great.
Right.
Yep.
And I just find that to be one of the secret sauces, I think, certainly to what you have accomplished at ABC and how I see, our staff, especially our staff. I think our staff really understands the mission. I mean, it's all around us. I mean, you can see it back there behind me, and we have our mission written out everywhere, and I think people really get it. All right. Yep. Number 2. Mastering the dual attitude, switching between vision and ground truth. And I think this is kind of related to the first one.
Related a little bit.
The ability to kind of switch your perspective
based
on what the need is, right? When we go from...
so you used the 35 or 30,000 down to I forget what you used, the 5,000 or 1,000.
1,000 feet.
So in what way is this one different?
I think it's different in the tasks you do. I think it's related to the mission comment, right? Do your tasks explain your mission? So I'm just kind of flipping it a little bit, right? So is the stuff that you do, that the staff does, that the board does, is it able to translate the vision? And I think it is. I mean, I think we do that really well. But in terms of the tasks and controlling it, right? I think we do a really good job of being able to capture our day-to-day, whether it's 30,000 or 5,000, our day-to-day capturing our mission. And I think that's something you have to be very, very cognizant of, because that can get away from you, right? Because if you become super embroiled in the task, and the task doesn't really match the mission, and you're not paying attention to it, you can go down a path that just it's ends up being a huge waste of time and resources. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep. Makes sense. I'm trying to think of, some of our, oftentimes think of these things in terms of the struggles or the challenges, and how those principles help you navigate those things. And without, and again, you've alluded to it a few times, and we don't mean to come across as thinking we're, I don't know, so superior to, either ourselves or our chapter, but the chapters, again, I believe it when I say
leaves clues, right? People say that all the time.
It's very successful. I don't know, and I say that, I'd be cautious about saying that if I could think of a way you could measure it and then point to it and say, well, not there. But I mean, quite honestly, again, I guess apologies if this sounds smug or arrogant, but I just can't think of a way to measure success. And there are a couple of small things that I wish we were doing better on that we, again, constantly have to navigate and talk about.
So let's
30,000 foot down to the 1,000 foot in terms of the ground game on how to improve those things.
So let's talk about that. I think there's a huge, and I especially see this in lay leadership, right? There is so much attention and credit and accolades given to organizations and to people when they go from when they go from nothing to something, right?
Sure.
But when you go from something to great,
yeah, that's true.
There's a huge sort of,
it can be overlooked and missed.
It's overlooked all the time because the sense of growth isn't dramatic as it will be to go from making $100 to making $1 million. You're
right.
Like, wow.
Sometimes those adjustments too are less observable, or I don't know, they're more nuanced or whatever. So I think that's true.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot. You and I talk a lot about it's. There has been and continue to be a number of things outside of the chapter, the Florida East Coast chapter of ABC, that we characterize as the ABC Florida East Coast policy or ABC Florida East Coast bylaws change. Or where organizations that are and for the most part are, but should be tremendous partners, instead see threats.
Yeah.
Am I like completely off the rails?
No.
And talking about this the.
But I have a theory. I have a theory behind that. Why we see that?
Hit me with it. We probably talked about it already.
We have, but my theory is that I think so many organizations are content being good that they see any attempt to be great as a threat.
Sure.
Right.
Especially if, and I don't want to cast aversion or stones, but I think it's part of the human nature. I mean, just to not rock the boat.
To not rock the boat.
Especially if, you got a good thing and the environment may be very somewhat calm or tame or, it'd be, so yeah, I mean, it's, I think that's very true.
So I think being good creates an environment of risk aversion. So I'll give you an example, right? You talk about this all the time. At ABC, we don't recycle leaders. Our lay leadership doesn't get recycled, right?
Right. I mean,
because we develop leaders.
Thank goodness.
All the time.
Now that doesn't mean we can't fall into some point in the future where we're doing that. But what I say is, that's not a sign of a healthy organization.
Right. And
that does recycle.
And we don't do it because we don't recycle.
Because we don't have to. In general, we have we're constantly
we got
developing.
a deep bench.
We have a deep bench. We're constantly developing them.
Yeah.
But
you can have a perfectly good organization that recycles leaders, right? And this is connected to your point about not rocking the boat, because you have good leaders, you know what to expect, right? You have consistency, you know what to expect, you know how people are going to behave. So you keep it. You keep the system. But you're good, you're not going to be great like that. Yeah. Right? But obviously there's a risk involved in rocking the boat and changing leaders, growing leaders, and then going to the next level.
Yeah. So anyway.
And there's growing pains associated with that. Next point. Institutional reflection, not just action.
Okay.
Right? I think we do a really good job of digesting our decisions.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Right?
I'm always the one that wants to put things in. I'm thinking through my head, what's he talking about? What kind of context? What kind of examples can I think of that, yeah.
Our Miami acquisition, right?
Okay.
Obviously, there's risk. It's a big purchase.
Yeah.
What if we build it and nobody comes, right? But there's always this continuing conversation after we make every big decision to digest it, right? Like, because of the Miami acquisition, there were some certain big decisions we decided to put off until the future. And I would say, and how things have unfolded, that was the right call, right? Even though we weren't sure. But that's a decision I think we made, but we have continued to reflect on it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And whether, like the Army does those after action reports. We don't do just one report. I think we continue to talk about that decision, and we kind of look back and say, okay, in light of how things have now gone from sort of short term to midterm, was that still the right choice? I think that gives you a lot of wisdom in decision making, I think, as an organization.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great example for staff. I think staff realizes that we don't just...
We're a nonprofit too, so I think because of that, we're also very cautious.
Yeah.
Right. So even that decision about what if we build it and they don't come, or what if that enrollment 5 years from now or whatever is not where it needs to be. We, being a nonprofit, we're very cautious about making that move. And quite frankly, we're convinced, I think, that even if that happened, we would have a solid financial real estate investment, right? So if 5 or 10 years from now, the organization has to make a decision and think it didn't grow the way we had hoped, which we're convinced it will, we're going to manage, the organization in a way that, hopefully brings that to fruition. But we knew going into it, and that's what I mean by being cautious or a conservative, organization. We knew going into it that even if, we had a solid real estate investment one way or another, right? So,
well, we gamify, right? We gamify it out. We just make sure how we understand. I read this somewhere. I'm not sure who this is. I should give credit to, but it was speed without reflection isn't growth; it's drift, right? And I think we make some great decisions in a timely fashion, but we reflect on them.
Yeah.
And so, all right, we're running out of time, so we're going to
navigational references. I love it.
Navigational references, exactly.
Yeah, something that's not within your direction or power. You're not going where you want to go.
Yep.
You're going where the prevailing currents will take.
This is something you say. You don't use these words, but I hear you say this all the time. Speak last, listen first, but always decide. Right. I can tell you, I appreciate it. Staff appreciates it. Right. I think you especially have done a really good job of creating psychological safety around decision making for our staff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's not easy either, by the way, too, because there's been consequences, I think, in my life. Oftentimes, the leaders above you, sometimes see that as, or it doesn't necessarily, you're not tooting your own horn or making sure they understand the consequences of our success.
Our success, yep.
So,
absolutely.
So yeah, it's,
Have you noticed how there's a discussion in our boardroom and it'll be sort of all over the map, and then you'll kind of stand up and you will summarize it, and then you'll set the direction. That's kind of what I'm referring to, right? You're always the last to speak. You listen, but then you make that decision.
Yeah, I don't know. I think many times in my career, I've just haven't spoken at all, and I probably should have, but I've always felt like we as staff, as a nonprofit and association, are in a kind of advised capacity, right?
Yep.
So, at the appropriate time, and I would hope they would do this and think of this, but the leadership should be asking, whether it's a membership conversation, asking the membership professionals, or an educational one, asking for the input before they make, those decisions.
Yep.
So oftentimes, though, probably my fault has been where I should have spoken up regardless, and sometimes haven't in my past, and that's kind of the.
Well, that's your evolution.
Cost me.
Your evolution as a leader too. So this is my quote: Consensus feels nice, but clarity changes outcomes. Sonny Macon.
Sonny Macon.
Yeah, trademark.
Let's do it.
Because I've noticed that, right? We'll be in committee meetings, and there's always this, desire to just let a consensus build. but there's a lack of clarity, and consensus is having a hard time finding itself.
Yeah.
And then you'll say something, and all of a sudden clarity shows up, and then people are like, okay, that's the decision, right?
And it can be confused. Consensus can be confused for clarity.
Consensus can be, exactly. That's a great point. Consensus, I think, often is confused with clarity.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a very good point. Okay, last one. And this I got from my grad school. One of my professors said it, and I know it wasn't his original thought. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Yeah. I say it all the time.
You do.
And we work so hard. We protect.
Powerful statement. Right.
Absolutely. We can strategize all we want, but if we have
a bad culture,
it's not going anywhere. And we work really hard to protect our culture like it's a product. And I think we do an incredible job of that, constantly talking about how we are merit-based and a merit shop, right? Constantly. Another thing I learned from that same professor, repetition builds culture. So we repeat it over and over and over again, right? And so, and I'm just telling you, like, if we don't design our culture, chaos will take over. And
I think a lot of those things are not just specific to ABC and our mission and values, but they're also specific to the nonprofit world in general.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think, we have to set the right culture in terms of avoiding conflicts of interest and making sure we know just exactly how different conflicts of interest can look and exercise themselves, which is so important in a nonprofit world to functionality.
Can you break that down? Can you explain what most people think when they think of conflicts of interest, and what you are really referring to when you say conflict of interest?
I think when most people hear conflicts of interest, our attention immediately turns to like financial.
Yeah.
I or my cousin or wife, owns a X business, and we're talking about doing business and not steering that towards. And most people see that as
that's the obvious one.
It's the obvious one, and it's probably the least common. I mean, most people know enough about that they know to avoid it.
Right.
They know the ethical challenges of that. But in a nutshell, a conflict of interest is putting your own interests above the organization. That's why it's so important in the context of a nonprofit.
But it doesn't have to be just financial, is what you're saying.
Correct. Correct. No, thank you. Putting your own interests, regardless of what they are, and rarely are they financial. Sometimes they manifest themselves in other ways. Yeah. So in any event, I think driving those things home, driving home when decisions are made at the organization, rarely, sometimes they're not always unanimous, but when they are made, whether they're at the board level or committee levels, you've made a decision. Yeah. And this is, by the way, wouldn't our country be better off if we actually acted this way? So that when a decision's made, you got behind it and you moved in that direction. The majority have spoken,
Yeah.
So, but it's very important to the functionality and survivability, I think, of a nonprofit and
really any organization,
but certainly of a nonprofit. So
especially if you're nitpicking decisions that have already been made. And it's just so.
And anyway, and there are many more, and we talked about a lot of them. But sticking to the mission, respecting the values of the organization. A lot of attention lately has been paid to processes. Whether spoken or written. We've certainly had them. We haven't always been the best at putting them in ink, in black and white. But anyway, all these things I think are contributed to our past success and will continue to contribute to our success moving forward. So because we and our volunteer leadership spend so much time being conscientious, if you will, about these important attributes and characteristics of a successful organization.
Absolutely.
And successful leadership, which is how we started the podcast.
Well, we really hope you enjoyed this and found, at least one of these 5 things just speaks to you and you're able to kind of implement it in your own organization. If you do that, shoot us an email, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
This was like a, what do you call those, a session. So you got checks in the mail, Sonny. I mean, it's great to reflect on leadership and how to improve.
Absolutely.
So in any event, thank you all. We appreciate you respecting us with your time and listening, and we look forward to being with you next Friday for another edition of The Obvious. Ciao.
Take care.